In the 32nd minute of Argentina's 2026 World Cup opener, Lionel Messi went to ground in a tangle with the Algerian defender Aissa Mandi. And as he did, his studs raked straight down the back of Mandi's calf. Boots up. Contact clear. The kind of challenge that, on any other player in any other shirt, gets a card pulled out before the victim has even hit the floor. The referee, one of the best in the world, blew for the foul. And then, nothing. No red, no yellow, not even a glance at the pitch-side monitor. Messi got up, dusted himself off, and a little later completed a hat trick, burying the whole incident under a wave of highlight reels. One respected analyst said it on air without blinking. It's 100% a red card. Algeria were so incensed they filed a formal complaint with FIFA. And all over the world, football fans ask the same uncomfortable question they have been asking for decades. If that is a nobody, he's sent off. So why wasn't Messi? Do the rules of football quietly bend for the biggest names in the game? This is the story of the untouchables, and the uncomfortable evidence that, at the World Cup, some players really are protected. Let's be honest about the unwritten rule everyone in football knows, and nobody will print. The bigger the name, the softer the whistle. A young fullback makes that exact challenge in the second minute, and he is in the showers before halftime. The greatest player of his generation makes it, in the biggest tournament on earth, and he stays on to score a hat trick. It is not a conspiracy with a secret handshake. It is something quieter, and in a way more troubling than that, because it happens in plain sight, and we have all simply learned to accept it. Go back to that Algeria game, because it is the perfect case study. The contact on Mandi was not a shove or a clumsy coming together. It was studs dragged down the back of a standing leg. Textbook serious foul play. The exact phrasing in the laws of the game that is supposed to bring an automatic red. The referee was Szymon Marciniak, a Pole widely regarded as one of the finest officials on the planet. A man who has refereed Champions League and World Cup finals. This was not some overwhelmed rookie. And even he gave a foul and moved on, while the video team in the bunker, with every angle and all the time in the world, decided it was not even worth a second look. Argentina won 3-0. Messi got his hat trick and edged closer to the top of the all-time World Cup scoring charts. The headlines were about history, not about the calf he could have ended. And Algeria, a proud nation, dumped out of the conversation, were left filing paperwork nobody would ever act on. Now, in fairness, there is another side to this, and it is an important one. The biggest stars are also the most kicked. Defenders spend 90 minutes trying to foul them, frighten them, stop them by any means necessary. The most fouled player in the entire history of the World Cup is Diego Maradona, a staggering 152 fouls across his 4 tournaments, almost double Messi's 75. So when people say referees protect the great players, part of that is simply that the great players need protecting, because they are hunted. A good referee shielding a genius from being hacked to pieces is not bias. That is the job. But, and here is the twist, the very same superstars who get protected when they are fouled also seem to get away with murder when they are the ones doing the fouling. The most famous example in the sport's history is a handball so brazen it got its own nickname, the Hand of God. The single greatest player on the planet, at a World Cup, punching the ball into the net with his fist in front of the referee and getting away with it completely. The icon does the crime, and the whistle stays in the official's pocket. It is the protection running in both directions, shielded when they are hit, and somehow forgiven when they hit back. And out of that grew the modern phenomenon, the untouchables. Watch any major tournament closely and you will see it. There are simply players you do not send off in a marquee game. You book the defender for a frustrated tug, but the superstar who throws an elbow gets a word. The icon goes down theatrically and wins the soft penalty. The journeyman does the same and gets booked for simulation. The reputations walk onto the pitch before the players do. The referee already knows who the main character is supposed to be, and deep down, Nobody really wants to be the official who sends the tournament's biggest draw to the dressing room in the opening 20 minutes, in front of 90,000 people and a billion more at home. Think of how often you have seen it with your own eyes. A superstar tumbles under the lightest touch, and the penalty is given before he has even finished rolling. And when a lesser player tries the exact same trick, out comes the yellow card for simulation. Think back to 2006, when one of the game's biggest names leaned over the referee to demand that his own club teammate be sent off, and then turned to his bench and winked, because he knew precisely how much his word was worth. The very best have always understood something the rest of the squad never will. Their reputation is a tool, and an official is far more likely to believe the megastar's version of events than the unknown defenders. They don't just get protected, they learn to work the protection. Now, you might be thinking this is all just vibes, fan paranoia, confirmation bias, where we remember the calls that went the big names' way and forget the ones that didn't. And that would be a fair challenge, except that researchers have actually gone and measured it, and what they found is genuinely damning. In studies of potential penalty situations, the bigger, more successful teams were awarded around 110% of the penalties a neutral expert panel said they deserved. In other words, they got every fair penalty, plus extra ones they did not. Their opponents? They received barely 12% of the penalties they should have had. The successful teams were more likely to be handed a penalty they did not deserve, and less likely to be denied one they did. That is not a fan on a forum. That is the data. The whistle really does tilt towards the powerful. And if it happens for big clubs, it has always happened for big nations, especially the ones playing at home. The history of the World Cup is stained with it. Italy, under Mussolini in 1934, marching to a home triumph on the back of decisions that raised eyebrows for generations. England in 1966, a contested goal at Wembley nudging the hosts to the trophy. Argentina in 1978, the home side riding a wave of favorable calls all the way to glory. And South Korea in 2002, co-hosts who reached the semi-finals while Italy had a goal wrongly chalked off and saw their star sent off for a dive that replays showed was nothing of the sort. Different decades, different countries, same pattern. When the giant is big enough, or the host loud enough, the close calls have a strange habit of going their way. And these are not academic quibbles. A red card not shown is a player who stays on to score the winner. A penalty softly awarded is a quarterfinal swinging on a single referee's nerve. Across a century of World Cups, the protection of the powerful has not merely bruised a few egos. It has, quietly, helped decide who lifts the trophy and who flies home wondering what might have been. The margins at this level are razor thin, and when the whistle leans even slightly towards the giant, that lean can be the difference between a nation's greatest night and its most bitter. So why does it happen? Part of it is pure human pressure. Put yourself in the referee's boots. It is the opening game, the stadium is shaking, the most famous footballer alive has just caught an opponent, and your hand is hovering over the red card that ends his night, and possibly the entire neutral world's interest in the match. That is a brutal thing to ask a human being to do in a single second. Part of it is subconscious bias. We are all, referees included, dazzled by greatness, more willing to give the benefit of the doubt to the player we have watched do magical things 1,000 times. And part of it, whether the sport admits it or not, is money. The World Cup is built and sold on its superstars. A tournament needs its biggest names on the pitch, not in the stands. Nobody is handing referees an envelope, but everybody understands, on some level, who the show is for. And every time a superstar is protected, somebody pays for it. For every Messi who stays on, there is an Aissa Mandi nursing a raked calf and a sense of injustice. For every untouchable who gets the benefit of the doubt, there is a smaller nation that gets the rough end of exactly the same decision. We have watched it already at this very World Cup. A perfectly good goal from an unfashionable side wiped out for a soft foul in the build-up, while almost identical contact involving a bigger team moments earlier in the tournament was waved away as nothing. It is the inconsistency that drives fans to despair. Not that mistakes happen, but that they so often happen in the same direction. This was supposed to be the era that fixed all of it. Video review, cameras on every blade of grass, technology to drag the game towards cold, blind fairness. And in some ways, it has helped. But here is the catch that no amount of technology can engineer away. In the end, a human being still makes the call. A human still decides whether to walk to the monitor. A human still looks at a superstar and at a reputation built over 20 years and has to find the nerve to treat him like anybody else. And humans, it turns out, are not blind to greatness. They are drawn to it, just like the rest of us. So the question does not go away. It will be asked again the next time a global icon plants his studs on an opponent and jogs away with a shrug, while the rest of us rewind the replay and wonder what on earth we just watched. Are the rules of football really the same for everyone? Or does the World Cup, quietly, in 1,000 small moments, protect its kings? The biggest names will tell you they get no favors, that they are kicked, hunted, and treated more harshly, not less. The data and the history and a furious Algerian federation tell a different story. You have watched the same games we have, so you decide. At the World Cup, is justice really blind, or does it know exactly whose shirt it's looking at?